All right, so the fear of losing muscle is keeping a lot of guys fat. And I know that because that's exactly what happened to me. Okay? I started lifting. I was around 15 or 16, and I was always a chubby kid. I was always a bigger than average kid. I was never like a scrawny kid or anything like that. And when I started lifting, what happened because I kept eating like a motherfucker was that I just put on some muscle as well, right? Not only fat, not only the perma bulk, but I was also putting some muscle. And people started noticing the muscle. People started noticing that I was looking a little bit different, that my arms were looking a little bit bigger. And there was this one day, right? There was this one day in class that this one girl that I found really hot, right? I got a big crush on her. She turned to a friend next to her, to one of my friends, and she pointed at me and she was like, "Oh, he's getting big. Oh, his arms are getting big." And I'm like, man, I was like, yeah, that's it, boys, that's it. I won, game over. And with time, we started associating our identity with the fact of being the big guy, right? At some point, I was the big guy, right? I was the part of my identity was on the fact that I was bigger. So whenever I would try to start a diet, whenever I try to cut, I would notice that it's normal that happens, right? Because when you start cutting, you kind of deflate a little bit. For sometimes you look a little bit more flat sometimes because maybe you're eating less carbs. You look more flat, your muscles don't look that full. So it kind of looks like you're getting smaller before you actually lose the weight, right? It takes some time. So you first have to do that kind of like de-bloating stage where you're gonna lose the water weight and everything. And that's going to give you the impression that you're getting smaller, but only in your muscles, but you're still gonna be fat. And then after that, if you keep that going consistently, you start actually losing the fat. The problem that happened is that when I got to the stage where I was kind of quote unquote de-bloating, when I was deflating, doing that fucking almighty deflating, I would freak out. It would be a hit on my identity, right? Because if I saw myself as the big guy and, well, I'm getting smaller, then I'm not gonna be the big guy anymore. I'm just gonna be this fat kid again. And of course, if you say it out loud, it sounds fucking ridiculous, but when you are living that, when you have that living experience of your identity being threatened, you end up giving up, right? You end up giving up. So for a long, long, long time, nothing that I did worked because I had this fear that I was losing muscle, that I had fear that I was losing more than muscle, that I was losing who I was. And that only changed now that I'm getting where we are today after I started fasting, and I've lost around 30 pounds over the past year. Because what happened, what I noticed is like, wow, I wasn't the biggest I ever was, but worst shape of my life in terms of aesthetics. But I was also feeling really strong. I was also lifting really heavy. I was also, progressing in the gym. Now, I am in the best shape of my life. I'm in the best shape of my life. I mean, doesn't mean that it's perfect, but I'm right now. This is the best I ever looked, and this is the best I ever felt. And a lot of the lifts are still the same, and I didn't lose all muscle, and I'm actually look like I have more muscle than I did before. So it was all here, man. It was all here. And if you look at all those experiments that they make with fasting, all those long-term fasts, I think there was this famous one from that David Blaine, the magician, that he stays 40 days in a box hanging above London, some shit like that. He lost a lot of muscle, almost died. Why? Why is that? Because he wasn't moving. Because he wasn't moving. So I was able to keep most of the muscle, even though I'm eating like one meal a day, cutting extremely aggressively. Extremely aggressively? I don't know if that exists. I don't know about that grammar, bro. Even though I'm cutting very aggressively, I didn't lose the muscle. Why? Because I was still moving, I was still exercising. even if you just walk, even if you stop lifting and you just walk, you're still probably not going to lose much muscle, because muscles are not that fragile. Muscles are not that easy to destroy. Like, think with me, all right? I want you to think about it with me. Think about how it was with our ancestors, right? How it was back in the day. Well, you couldn't hunt for any food today. You're not eating. It's that simple. You can't hunt, you can't eat. You can't find food, you can't eat. The crops didn't grow properly. Well, you're not eating that much this winter. But the next time, you still have to perform equally well to get the food again. So the muscles, they cannot be that fragile. Like, if our muscles were as fragile as the gym bros now they think they are, we would have been extinguished as a species a long time ago. Because 3 days of not eating, the guy lost all his muscles and he cannot hunt anymore, therefore his whole tribe dies. So if we were as fragile as some people think we were, we wouldn't be at this advanced as a species. So I have to assure you that whatever you achieved, whatever you conquered by lifting, whatever muscle you put on, you're not going to simply melt the moment you put the fork down. They're not going to melt the moment you stop eating. So I stopped eating and I look better now than I looked before. And to you that's watching my video and that also, empathizes with the story that I said at the beginning of creating an identity of being the big guy. Whatever you look like right now, you're probably going to look a lot better without all the extra fat. And it doesn't even have to be that fucking massive of a cut, right? I've lost, like, you guys saw the thumbnail, I'm not even close to like 8% body fat. It's like I'm way above that. I'd say I'm probably like close to 20 or even further than that. I still have a lot to lose. I still have a lot of progress to be made before I can say that I'm lean. But even though I still look better than what I looked when I was heavier, I'm right now at like 200 and little-ish pounds, which is like 90 something kilos for the non-Americans watching, the non-imperial metric people watching this video. So that's what I want you guys to think about today, how the fear of losing muscle is keeping a lot of people fat, all right? So that's all for today. Check out my school community in the description, because I talk about fasting in depth and how to do everything properly and structure that in your life and lose weight with fasting, all right? See you guys next time. Cheers.